Hi everyone, this is Ben Lincoln from Legacy of Kain, The Lost Worlds. This video will walk you through Turel's territory, one of the largest areas that was deleted from Soul Reaver during development. In the final version of the game, proceeding east from Dumas' territory leads to the Oracle's Cave. However, in prototype versions of Soul Reaver from early 1999, those canyons instead contained the entrance to Turel's territory, as well as the Spirit Glyph area, which is shown in a separate video. Turel's fortress has the most complex layout of any of the deleted areas we're covering in 2020, so I'm going to lean heavily on rendered animations in order to clarify the progression through this part of the game. Just inside the entrance is an orrery-like mechanism, which is the key to this area. The orrery is surrounded by 3 constrictable pillars in elevated rooms which can only be reached from other parts of the area, as well as branching passages worming through the tower. Only one of these passages would be open at first. It curves back on itself, leading to the central smokestack which dominates Turel's territory, and which is directly over the orrery. The smokestack is one of the most iconic areas deleted from Soul Reaver. It appears in several promotional videos for the game, and is also visible in the distance during the opening cinematic. There's no way to proceed without either cheating or jumping onto the lava below. In this prototype, the lava does no damage. There are 2 types of lava in this level, and we think that this kind would have hurt Raziel while the other would have killed him immediately. Progressing through the first of many winding passages, we reach another area which is immediately recognizable from pre-release video footage of the game. This room contains the second type of lava, which we believe was the kind described by some of the game's developers as killing the player instantly. This is reinforced by the fact that if the player falls into the lava here, there's no way back up, even though the lava does no damage in this prototype. Another series of twisting passages brings the player back to the smokestack, but at a higher level than before. This is the first of 3 enormous fan blades, each containing a very unaerodynamic lever for Raziel to pull. Pulling the lever opens 2 doorways, one above the other. It's possible to glide down to the lower doorway, but the upper doorway can only be reached by cheating in this prototype. We think that some element of this puzzle is missing. The lower passage leads to the first of the constrictable pillars. This pillar moves the orrery somewhat, but doesn't seem to trigger several other actions that seem necessary, such as opening additional doors and possibly rotating the fan blades to make the upper doorway accessible. Since it's not possible to get there by other means, I'm using the debug movement feature to reach the upper doorway. The next room has also appeared in quite a few promotional images and videos of Soul Reaver. This long, tall area has 2 possible approaches, although when the player first reached it, they'd have to jump down to the bottom regardless. After fighting the vampire, it would have been necessary to proceed through this tunnel, which, as you can see, is very glitchy in this prototype. That tunnel leads to a giant reservoir with a crank that can't be turned at first. However, off to the left, you can just make out another vampire on the ledge. This is one of the few locations where we're certain that Raziel would have used the possession ability, controlling the vampire in order to make them pull the switch. The possession ability is only partly complete in the prototypes we recovered, so it's possible to walk the vampire over to the lever but not actually pull it. I'll use the debug movement ability again to move Raziel over there to actually trigger the lever. With the lever pulled, the crank can be turned, which fills up the main basin in this reservoir. To recap, we've come from the deadly lava room back to the smokestack, then through the tall, long curving room through to the reservoir, which is above two other medium-sized rooms. The player drops down into the second of these and finds themselves in the presence of Raziel's lost brother, Turel. Turel's model is only present in the prototype from 4 February 1999, and we haven't been able to find a way to make him move normally yet. Kevin Chapmaho has been unlocking his animations, and probably has footage of those you can see by the time this video goes live. From the deleted dialogue, we know that the key to defeating Turel involved drowning him, and clearly the water would come from the reservoir above this room. We don't know exactly how this would have occurred. Perhaps Raziel would have tricked Turel into using telekinetic blasts to destroy the support pillars in one or both of these rooms. The 16 February prototype has a very rough animation which can be triggered in this room. It depicts the water rushing in, but not Turel himself. Defeating Turel would have granted Raziel the amplified force projectile ability. The player would then proceed out the main doors of the chamber. This passage does not lead anywhere in any prototype we've obtained, but from the output of the model conversion toolchain, we discovered that it would have led back to the tall, curving passage from earlier. The right edge of that passage includes a high ledge. It's unclear how the player would have reached it, but after doing so, they'd have had their first opportunity to make use of the new ability, by knocking open the large doors on the opposite wall. This leads to a corridor to the second fan blade, which works just like the first one. As before, the player would take the lower passage first. This one leads to the second constrictable pillar. It must be rotated counterclockwise, unlike the first one. The upper passage leads to another room with a water puzzle. Parts of this room damage Raziel while he's in them. We believe this is supposed to be due to sunlight, even though the reason isn't clear yet. The platform to the left contains the valve which raises the water level, but it's also full of Turelium vampire eggs. One can fight them all, but there's an easier option. One corner of the room is a weak spot, with a few sunbeams poking through. If this room had been finished, the amplified force projectile probably would have broken it open. As it is, there's an event that can be manually triggered to accomplish the same thing. From this final fan blade, only one passage can be reached, and it leads to the third constrictable pillar. Triggering this pillar and then the orrery should complete the puzzle, but in this prototype, something is unfinished. Fortunately, the puzzle completion can be triggered manually. The orrery spinning indicates that all of the fan blades are as well, and Raziel could then use the massive updraft from the smokestack to reach Kain's mountain retreat. Thanks for watching.